The President. Good morning. Before the start of today's meeting, I'd like to thank the government departments of the Hong Kong SAR for their high efficiency after the super typhoon, for clearing the streets in a short period of time so that we're able to restore this council meeting as usual. I'm going to suspend this meeting at 7 p.m. until 9 a.m. tomorrow, and tomorrow's session will last until 1 p.m. First question, Mr. Michael Tien. It has been reported that the hot air balloon festival held earlier at Central Harbourfront failed to arrange for hot air balloons to carry passengers because the relevant licenses had not been granted. That resulted in public dissatisfaction. There are also views that the incident has damaged Hong Kong's reputation as an events capital. In this connection, will the government inform this council? 1. As the government has indicated that when vetting and approving the event, the departments observed that there were instances when hot air balloons were difficult to control, or the license granted did not include the carriage of passengers. But the organizer continued to use the hot air balloon passenger activities as the focus of its publicity subsequently, whether the government will take follow-up actions in this regard. 2. As it is learned that the aforesaid activity was publicized on the Hong Kong Tourism Board's website, creating a false impression that it was officially endorsed of the criteria adopted by the board for selecting activities for publicity, and whether it will monitor the progress and quality of the activities concerned in order to avoid embarrassing the government when problems with the activities arise. And 3. As there are views that many mega events held at government venues in the past 2 years have made disappointing arrangements, and the government indicated in its reply to my supplementary question on the 8th of January this year that it would study a mechanism to prevent mega events from damaging Hong Kong's reputation of the progress of the relevant work so far. Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism. Thank you, President. In consultation with the Commerce and Economic Development Bureau, the Development Bureau, the Home and Youth Affairs Bureau, and the Transport and Logistics Bureau, our reply to the question raised by Mr. Michael Tien is as follows. Sorry, I forgot to put on the mic. Sorry, President. As the Chief Executive mentioned earlier, the government plays 3 key roles in the promotion of mega events and activities in Hong Kong, including regulating, promoting, and venue renting. For events organized, funded, and supported by the government, we will do our utmost to ensure that the events comply with the legal requirements and are held properly. We also welcome events that the government does not fund or participate in organizing, especially novel and interesting events that are popular among the public and visitors. The government will endeavor to facilitate and provide assistance and would also help promote the events. However, it is crucial that all event organizers bear the responsibility to ensure the safe and orderly execution of their activities and the strict compliance with all necessary license and permit requirements. For events involving high risk and technical requirements, the government will strictly monitor them by prioritizing safety and taking into account similar events held in Hong Kong and the organizers' experience and track record in hosting similar events in the past. Regarding the role of venue rental, the government currently leases the Central Harbourfront event space, the venue for the Hong Kong International Hot Air Balloon Festival, to a tenant on a short-term basis. The tenant then rents the space to external organizations for hosting events, leveraging market flexibility and creativity. The majority of events held are commercial arrangements between the hiring organization and the tenant, with the tenant making its own decisions subject to compliance with lease agreements and regulations. My response to the 3 parts of the question is as follows. 1. The festival was a commercial event organized by a private entity and was not organized, funded, or supported by the government. In April this year, the organizer notified the government departments that it had leased the Central Harbourfront event space for the festival and sought assistance in applying for the necessary permits. On the 8th of July, the organizer applied for necessary licenses from the relevant departments. Throughout the process, the relevant departments maintained close communication with the organizer, actively providing assistance and advice. However, in consideration that the results of the organizer's on-site hot air balloon demonstration on the 20th of August were unsatisfactory and the safety risks were significant, the relevant departments, after cautious and comprehensive consideration on public safety grounds, informed the organizer during a meeting on the 27th of August that only after an on-site hot air balloon demonstration could successfully conducted would the relevant departments consider issuing the necessary licenses to display hot air balloons at the festival. Regarding passenger carrying activities, as the organizer stated that it could only conduct another demonstration 1 to 2 days before the festival, the departments clearly stated at the meeting that due to tight time schedule, the chance of granting approval was extremely slim and recommended the organizer to publicly announce cancellation of this part as quickly as possible and arrange refunds or other compensation to those ticket holders. The organizer eventually conducted another demonstration on the 3rd of September, the day before the festival. After cautious and comprehensive consideration, the departments approved the display of hot air balloons at the festival on the 4th of September. Upon receipt of complaints relating to the festival, the Consumer Council and the Customs and Excise Department have been closely following up on the matter. Shortly after the incident, the Consumer Council urged the organizer to offer refunds to affected persons and reminded ticket holders to retain the tickets and receipts for protecting their rights and interests in future claims. After the organizer announced a refund plan, the Consumer Council has called on the organizer to deploy additional staff to expedite the handling of inquiries, confirm with the ticket holders who have submitted the claims, and make refund arrangements before the promised deadline. The Consumer Council continues to maintain contact with the organizer and is following up on all the complaints. Furthermore, the Customs and Excise Department is also following up on the reports. The department will take appropriate enforcement action in case there are violations of the Trade Descriptions Ordinance. 2. The Hong Kong Tourism Board considers and balances various factors when assessing the level of support for mega events, including whether the events can attract participation from the public and visitors, whether they can create positive global exposure and showcase Hong Kong's unique charm and culture, art, and sports and other areas, and whether they can demonstrate Hong Kong's strategic position. To support the efforts on tourism promotion, in addition to events organized or supported by the board has also been featuring major events organized by the government and large-scale events organized by other organizations on Discover Hong Kong website in recent years. This website is continuously updated, providing public and visitors with one-stop access to the latest information and itinerary planning. However, the board cannot guarantee the quality of events organized by private entities. After this incident, the board will introduce clear event categorization or annotations on the website so that the public will know who the event organizer is. If there are issues arising from the event, the board will provide timely updates to its website based on available information, including removing the events in the first instance. 3. In response to the questions from Mr. Tien at the electrical meeting on the 8th of January, I stated that we will continuously review the terms of the government-funded events to ensure its value for money added value to Hong Kong and did not damage Hong Kong's reputation. In fact, we had already completed the review on the Airmark major sports events and the Mega Arts and Cultural Events Fund and announced measures to strengthen the vetting mechanism and subsequent monitoring to provide targeted financial support for events that attract tourist participation. As for the venue of the festival, that's Central Harbourfront Event Space, the current tenancy will be terminated in June 2026. The Development Bureau is preparing to launch retendering of the short-term tenancy in the fourth quarter of this year. Based on the experience, the Bureau will enhance the tenancy terms so as to make good use of the site for various activities while strengthening management of the venue from the perspective of risk management, imposing a stronger gatekeeping role on the tenant, putting in place an early alert and notification mechanism for timely and appropriate intervention by the Development Bureau. Mr. Michael Tien. Mr. President, many mega events are government funded. They are held at government venues. Different policy bureaus are involved. Now, in respect of publicity and operation, is very risky. Has the government considered setting up a dedicated unit under the Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau for vetting applications and for publicity and promotion of events? If the answer is no, can you explain why? Because for this event and its publicity campaigns, you must tell the organizer to include information such as the fact that there is a chance that the application may be turned down and no passenger may be carried on the hot air balloons. And you should also explain that the chance of getting approval was actually slim. It would be all right if a disclaimer of this sort is put in place so that there won't be any complaints. Now, you've asked the question, Mr. Tien. Thank you, Mr. President. We note Mr. Tien's comment. We'll give it a thought and see whether this is feasible. Now, on this occasion, in April, the organizer sought assistance from us. And through the Tourism Commission, we liaised with the relevant government departments. They needed to apply for necessary licenses. For example, they needed to get the passenger carrying permit from the Civil Aviation Department, and also in relation to the venues, other licenses were required for holding public entertainment activities. So we provided professional advice and assistance. On the matter of the application and the approval process, as I mentioned in the main reply, on the 20th of August, we found the demonstration unsatisfactory. On the 27th of August, during a meeting, we told the organizer that because of the unsatisfactory demonstration, the chance of getting approval would be slim. We also recommended that the organizer arrange for ticket refunds and that they should inform the consumers. In the future, this notification from the government should be put in black and white, and that if the organizer decided to risk it, at least there would be a record that we could refer to in later, and we could also take follow-up action with the organizer in relation to violations of the Trade Descriptions Ordinance. Now, for government-funded or co-organized events that could not be held as scheduled, or that this event became a major departure from what was publicized, refunds would be arranged. However, this could only be done on the own volition of the organizer, and only by doing so would members of the public be given protection. Will the government consider improving the mechanism so that a more proactive approach could be put in place to make sure that the refund arrangements would be put in place by the organizer to allay the public concern? Secretary, well, thank you. Mr. Leung asked about government or co-organized or government-funded events. Now, apart from providing full support to the event organizer, very often we would also provide financial support to the organizer of these events. And according to experience, there is a mechanism in place. When we hold mega events, we will closely monitor the progress. And we are not going to grant the subsidies or financial support in one go. We will only provide the resources in full for reimbursement upon the successful conclusion of these events. And if there are hiccups, we usually allow the organizer to consider compensation options, but we also actively exert pressure to make sure that proper compensation will be offered. Now, is it possible to include in the terms of the agreement circumstances under which compensation should be made out? That depends on the nature of the activities. Now, this could be due to factors within their control or other force majeure events leading to the poor performance. So under this mechanism, we'll closely monitor their performance. We'll also be in close contact with them so that if necessary, we will give them pressure in a timely manner. And this would be more effective than including these terms in the agreement. Mr. Jeffrey Lam, thank you. When it comes to the hot air balloon incident, I support the government's decision. Safety should always be our priority. Now, we fully support the government's efforts in promoting the mega events economy because it will bring vibrancy to our city. There are 200 events to be that have been held in Hong Kong, a lot of which had the support of the government, such as the English Premier League football event. And according to the policy address, the government has reached an agreement with the organizer of golf event, Live Golf, and we look forward to inviting leading players to come to Hong Kong. Apart from Live Golf, my question is whether there are other major events that the government has secured cooperation with long-term partners. Secretary. Thank you, President. Thank you, Mr. Lam. Apart from Live Golf, we've earlier announced that in the end of October, the UTS tennis game will also be held. This is another major event to be held in Hong Kong, apart from the Hong Kong Open. And we also have the National Games, which will be held from the 9th to the 21st of November. And there will also be the special Olympics for the disabled between the 8th and the 15th of December. We also have the WTT, that's a year-end table tennis championship. And we also have the Chinese New Year football event, etc., as well as the Hong Kong Sevens to be held in the first quarter of 2026. And according to our discussion with Live Golf, this event will be held in the first quarter of next year as well. We'll continue to look for more mega events to be held in Hong Kong. In fact, for the Hong Kong Opens, that the badminton game, the organizer has indicated that definitely next year this game will be held in Kai Tak Sports Park. So rest assured, Mr. Lam, we will continue to do our best in securing more major sports events to be held in Hong Kong. Mr. Kenneth Kwok. Thank you, President. The hot air balloon incident. Please clip your mic to the lapel, Mr. Kwok. We support the government's and we support the government's decision. We put safety first. We don't want any casualties. However, when it comes to mega events, I don't think it's fair to put the blame on the government alone. Because if there are too many restrictions, then there will be no room for our sector to have any flexibility. So it's not fair to put the blame on the government alone. However, in the long run, if we are to promote the mega events economy, could more resources be provided for the purpose of training talents so that we have more talents to hold mega events in a professional manner. We have 5 major directions when it comes to sports development in Hong Kong, and in the long run, I believe more training should be provided so that we have more sports professionals to support mega events. Secretary. Thank you, President. Thank you, Mr. Kwok. When it comes to making sports a profession, we attach importance to training athletes and sports governance and coaches. So these are our close partners. Now, when it comes to talents dedicated to holding mega events, we do have a lot of them. Like Mr. Jeffrey Lam's question, which I already answered, we have held 200 mega events this year with great success. So we do have talents dedicated to organizing these events. As for training, we believe that on-the-job training is the most important aspect. It may look easy to hold some of these events, but we really need to get your hands on in order to have a full understanding of the obstacles involved. So we'll continue to consider what support the government can give But for the sector, I believe it is important for them to accumulate experience as well. For government co-organized events or government-funded events, in the future, we will exercise prudence in checking the track record and the resources of the organizer, including manpower resources. Mr. Chen, thank you, President. Secretary, this year we've held a lot of mega events with the full support of the government. Now, we need to consider where the responsibilities lie. If we want to hold more mega events in Hong Kong, we need to make sure what government departments are involved and a one-stop service should be provided. Now, if approval cannot be given, then you should notify the organizer as quickly as possible. This will only do good to the future of Hong Kong. So it's a word of appreciation for the government departments. Secretary, thank you, President. Thank you, Mr. Yong. We do have a one-stop service available. This is provided by the Tourism Commission as well as the Hong Kong Tourism Board. In fact, for the necessary licenses to be granted in this hot air balloon festival, the Bureau provided a one-stop support, despite the fact that we were not the Bureau in charge of granting approvals. We helped throughout the communication process, and we helped during the meetings. So, to exercise prudence in the future, the government departments will put things in black and white instead of just talking over the phone. Mr. Adrian Ho, thank you, President. Safety is of our top priority, and this is exactly how we can make sure we enjoy good reputation in the long run. Whilst promoting the mega events economy, how will the government safeguard the core values instead of just being short-sighted on economic benefits? There should be a strict monitoring of the events as well. Thank you, President. Thank you, Mr. Ho. I fully agree that we should put safety first. And I believe that if the government issues or grants licenses and permits whilst the event is not up to standard in terms of safety, then it will become the laughingstock in the global community. So I believe that by upholding the standards rigorously, we are actually protecting our reputation. Now, should we publicize our strategy to the international community? I thank Mr. Adrian Ho for telling this story and telling the truth. And today, through this occasion and through media interviews, we will, and in the future, will be more proactive in explaining our stance.
Question 2, Mr. Duncan Chiu. President, the opinions on deeply implementing the AI Plus initiative issued last month by the State Council proposed accelerating implementation of 6 key actions and reinforcing 8 fundamental support capabilities in order to enable all the people to share in the dividends of AI development. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, whether it will study in depth the specific content of the opinions and the ensuing opportunities and challenges for Hong Kong, and explore how Hong Kong should align and dovetail with the actions proposed in the opinions, as well as its proposed drive towards reinforcing fundamental support capabilities, including formulation of specific plans and timetables so as to support the country in achieving the objectives set out in the opinions. 2, whether it has reviewed Hong Kong's strategy as well as its effectiveness in promoting AI development, including areas requiring enhancement and optimization in terms of policy support, technological innovation, talent training, capital chain application scenario, community awareness, and so on. And 3, whether it will formulate comprehensive regulations for data protection and governance, including data security legislation to ensure the secure and effective access, transmission, and use of data, particularly cross-boundary data exchange and flow, and establish an internationally aligned data flow mechanism to realize Hong Kong's goal of becoming an international data hub. Secretary for Innovation, Technology, and Industry. President, having consulted the relevant bureaus, my reply to the questions raised by Mr. Duncan Chiu is as follows. Hong Kong has been taking proactive steps to build a vibrant AI ecosystem. Having conducted meticulous planning and implemented comprehensive measures over the past few years, following the launch of the AI Plus initiative last year, our motherland issued in August this year the opinions on deepening the implementation of the AI Plus initiative with a view to promoting the close integration of AI with various industries and sectors of the economy and society. To advance Hong Kong's AI Plus development, the 2025 policy address advocates the broadening of AI applications to empower industries while consolidating Hong Kong's strengths in AI research, talent, funding, and data, etc. For example, in terms of research, we are seeking a provision of $1 billion from the Legislative Council for the establishment of the Hong Kong AI R&D Institute in 2026, which will facilitate upstream AI research and development and downstream transformation of R&D outcomes, as well as the expansion of use cases. There is also the $3 billion Frontier Technology Research Support Scheme that will help local subsidized institutions to attract top-notch international scientific researchers. In respect of financing, the government will launch the Innovation and Technology Industry-Oriented Fund to proactively channel market capital to invest in emerging and future industries of strategic importance, including AI. The Hong Kong Investment Corporation, as the government-owned patient capital institution, will continue to invest in AI enterprises. As regards computing facilities, Cyberport's AI Supercomputing Center will enhance its computing power, and the $3 billion AI subsidy scheme has already approved many projects to fuel scientific research and large-scale AI applications. We will also put up to tender a site at Sandy Bridge to develop a data facility cluster. Regarding talent development, in addition to setting aside $2 billion in the Quality Education Fund to support digital education for primary and secondary schools, the government will formulate a blueprint for digital education, establishing an AI literacy learning framework. The government will also collaborate with professional bodies to roll out pilot schemes on AI education and enhance AI-related training for teachers. We also have digital platforms and tools equipped with AI launched progressively under the e-learning ancillary facilities program. AI application is key in taking forward the AI Plus initiative. In addition to expanding AI application scenarios in different sectors, we will also enhance the digital transformation support pilot program to provide SMEs with subsidies to apply AI solutions. The development of AI must be steered by safety and driven by application. As the core element of AI technology, the security, openness, and sharing of data are prerequisites for AI Plus development. Our policy objective is to foster proper data management and data usage, balancing the needs and risks of data-driven AI development. The Digital Policy Office has released the Ethical AI Framework, the Principles of Data Governance, and the Hong Kong Generative AI Technical and Application Guideline, providing guidance and recommendations for the development, design, processing, and secure use of AI services while advocating data flow and secure application. Regarding cross-boundary data, we have introduced the standard contract facilitation measure based on the Memorandum of Understanding on facilitating cross-boundary data flow within the GBA to facilitate the safe and orderly cross-boundary flow of data. We will also proactively explore the compliant and secure flow of mainland data to the Hong Kong Park in the Loop for scientific research and purposes, supporting AI application testing and innovation. In view of the AI development, the Office of the Privacy Commissioner for Personal Data has released various guidelines providing recommendations on AI governance and personal data privacy protection. The Department of Justice will also establish an interdepartmental working group to review the legislation needed to support a wider application of AI. The government will continue to monitor AI development trends and the needs of Hong Kong, adopting a multi-pronged strategy to enhance the data governance of Hong Kong, thereby fully unleashing the development potential of AI Plus on the premise of ensuring safety. Thank you, President. Mr. Duncan Chiu. Thank you, Chair. We have the Secretary talk about many measures promulgated by the government, including the setting up of the Institute as well as legislation. We have in many measures of the policy address, strengthening the application of AI and realizing the industrialization of AI and setting up of the AI advocacy enhancement team also. But I have received many inquiries from enterprises. They are very concerned. They don't know how they can enhance competitiveness in AI application. I guess we still need to do more. So can the government work with industry associations, chambers of commerce to say in particular sectors what they should do, what they should prepare for in AI and manpower planning? I guess we can have the government assist them through industry associations so that they can better make use of AI. Secretary, thank you, Mr. Duncan Chiu, for your questions. The application of AI will be very important in future. As said in the main reply, AI application is an important part of promoting the AI Plus initiative. And we do want to take an application-oriented approach. We will work with different sectors to tackle the pain points in the different sectors. And we want to provide concrete support. Tomorrow, we will apply to the Finance Committee for $1 billion to set up the AI R&D Institute in 2026. An important purpose of the institute is to promote mid and downstream transformation of R&D outcomes, as well as build a bridge between up and mid and downstream applications. And we will have an AI solution matching platform in future. It will provide advice to the government also on pain points in applying AI in the public sector as well as other sectors. And we also talked about in the policy address that we will have an AI efficacy enhancement team. This is to promote AI application in the government. With the different measures of the government, I think they can be of good reference to the different sectors. The government will also increase investment in industrialization of AI. We will have the R&D industry-oriented fund launched next year. There are 5 sectors. 2 of them are related to AI. One of them is AI and robotics. The other is digital transformation for enterprises. And we will provide specific support for enterprises to upgrade their AI and other technologies. We are prepared to support enterprises. Now enterprises have to take action. We also said in the policy address that we will have a pilot scheme on helping the digital transformation of cyberport that will also support SMEs in making use of AI to enhance their competitiveness. There's always the issue of data security, however. We are more than willing to work with different sectors to have them make use of AI to empower their operations. Thank you, Mr. Duncan Chiu. Mr. Sunny Tan. Thank you. With the country promoting new quality productive forces and AI, we have a full industry chain that can really be empowered by AI. How can we leverage on our business advantages, say our 8 centers positioning our professional services to promote the internationalization of AI so that we can dovetail with national technologies in coordinating with the Belt and Road and BRIC countries? Secretary, AI is influential in different sectors in different parts of the world. Hong Kong, as a place that connects the country with the rest of the world, we will play a key role in collaboration between the country and different parts of the world. Many enterprises will go global using Hong Kong as a platform. We definitely need to develop more of our channels and develop our influence. We have approximately 15 institutes researching AI, and the Hong Kong Inno clusters are developing I&T collaboration that will help us work better with different enterprises and organizations researching and developing AI in the rest of the world. We have the Hong Kong AI R&D Institute that will be established soon, and that will also help with international collaboration. In future, Hong Kong should play a more active role in international bodies to increase the country's and Hong Kong's influence in AI collaboration. We want to continue to work with the legislature to have greater potential for international collaboration in future. Thank you. Mr. Martin Liao, on data security, we have core legislative framework in the country. We have the Internet security laws in 2017. We have the data security laws promulgated in 2021. The INT sector and many other sectors really were hoping the government could have our own data security laws and a comprehensive data protection regime and data governance structure in Hong Kong. I want to ask the Secretary if we have made progress in this regard and if we have a concrete timeline for implementing the various measures. Secretary, with data management, there are different factors. Apart from consolidating data and making such data available for public access, it is also about data security, data infrastructure, and the standards in governance. And these all work together to make sure we can use data properly. We can't rely on a single piece of legislation to deal with all these issues. The government is actively considering promulgating data-related laws. We are actively making preparations. We are already subsidizing a university in Hong Kong to conduct preliminary studies on promulgating data laws. The study will last for a year. And referring to international practices is also a way for us to see what we should do. That the other jurisdictions' practices will be something we'll refer to. We will also try to enhance data governance and facilitate the free flowing of data. We also want to better regulate data management. We want to continue to work with Legislative Council members on this in future. Thank you. Mr. Edmund Wong, in the 2025-26 budget, we have talked about the AI R&D Institute being established. This institute will be a core research body in AI development in future. I want to ask the government, how can we have the institute work with other universities and in particular their knowledge transfer centers to promote the use of AI research outcomes? Secretary, the AI R&D Institute will be a front runner in development of AI in Hong Kong in future. One of their important missions is to maintain close liaison with different stakeholders on AI development. They are also going to take forward frontier AI research, and with doing that, they must liaise with different university teams on their research. The R&D Institute will set up a fellowship program and work with different professors and R&D teams of universities. They will also invite experts to become fellows in facilitating exchanges. Another mission of the Institute is to empower different industries in making use of AI. And then there will be different aspects we have to consider. We also have to consider, for example, IP and patents. In future, the AI R&D Institute will be an open platform. So whether it's frontier research, IP, patent application, industrial application and promotion, talent training, international collaboration. This will be an open platform for all of these. So in future, our R&D Institute, with the funding support of the Finance Committee, we should be able to recruit talents from different parts of the world to Hong Kong. Thank you. Mr. Tang Fei, in your main reply, you talked about helping teachers acquire knowledge related to AI. And in the policy address, we have talked about how the Education Bureau is going to promulgate a blueprint for digital education. So how can the RTIB work with the Education Bureau in formulating this blueprint? With the development of AI, we must have talents, and in the end, it's about competing for talents with different parts of the world. So apart from recruiting talents, we need to nurture our own talents. The RTIB will work closely with the Education Bureau to promote education of AI. The Education Bureau has earmarked $2 billion in the Quality Education Fund to support digital education for primary and secondary schools. They also have a steering committee that will suggest support measures for digital education. And we also have the digital platforms and tools equipped with AI launched progressively under the e-learning ancillary facilities program. Schools will continue to make use of funding provided by the government to promote the use of AI. The Digital Policy Office has also provided different resources for schools to set up laboratories and have extracurricular activities related to AI development. The Digital Policy Office will continue to work on this in future. We also hope to, through development of AI industries, INT parks, science park, cyberport, and AI development, provide more learning and training opportunities for primary and secondary students, maybe providing them with some summer learning programs. We also want to provide more graduate working opportunities with some dedicated funding. Ms. Elizabeth Court, I appreciate the government's determination in promoting the use of AI. With this, we need computing and data resources, but we are lacking in computing infrastructure. We don't have much land. We also have very high utilities charges. Can we work with national data centers to set up a cross-boundary platform so as to tackle the bottleneck in computing in Hong Kong in AI research and development? Thank you, Ms. Elizabeth Court. We have several bottlenecks, and we do need some good computing infrastructure. The government has been making preparations since 2 years ago, and we will be able to provide 50 kilowatts of computing resources in future. Next, we will need the industries to provide more computing infrastructure. Right now, we are working on the Sandy Bridge site. We believe as I said earlier, we will soon put up a site in Sandy Ridge for the development of a data facility cluster. With this, we should have more computing infrastructure to support the development of the AI industry in Hong Kong. As for working with the mainland, we are also actively looking into it. With cross-boundary flow of data or sharing of computing infrastructure or in other areas, we keep an open mind. Thank you, Ms. Elizabeth Court. Mr. Chen Pui-Leung. Thank you, Chair. In order to promote the development of AI effectively, we need to have enough application scenarios in specific areas: healthcare, finance, transportation, and urban management. How can we further promote the deeper use of AI? Will we have more sandbox or pilot projects? Thank you. Secretary, the next step is to promote a wider application of AI by developing different application scenarios. We have been actively preparing for this in the past 2 years. We have been developing large language models. We have also been preparing different funding support programs. We now have various support measures. The next step is to empower the different sectors to actively make use of AI. In Hong Kong, we have different application scenarios. There are quite a lot of them, actually. So the industries should work with the support of the government to develop more application scenarios. In the policy address, there is the AI advocacy enhancement team looking into different processes of the government and tackling pain points. And I think it's the same with different sectors. I guess we can work with the industries to see how we can develop more application scenarios in future with our experience. The government has now various support measures to support enterprises to make use of AI.
Question 3, Mr. Edmund Wong. Thank you, President. It's learned that in recent years, many restaurants have purchased pre-made dishes from external sources or produced them in-house to enhance efficiency and reduce operating costs. However, Hong Kong currently has no dedicated legislation governing the production, transportation, and sale of pre-made dishes and protecting the relevant consumer rights. In this connection, will the government inform this council? 1. Of the number of cases involving food safety problems in restaurants received by the government in each of the past 3 years, and among them, the number of those involving pre-made dishes. 2. As the State Administration for Market Regulation and 5 other ministries jointly issued the Notice of Strengthening the Regulation of the Food Safety of Pre-made Dishes and Promoting the High-Quality Development of the Industry last year, which for the first time clearly defines pre-made dishes and their scope and enhances the regulation of the food safety of pre-made dishes. Whether the authorities will make reference to such practices in order to strengthen the regulation of pre-made dishes. If so, of the details, if not, the reasons for that. And 3. As some consumers are of the view that they have the right to know whether the food provided by restaurants is a pre-made dish before patronizing them, whether the authorities will consider requiring restaurants to label food that is a pre-made dish, if so, of the details, if not, the reasons for that. Secretary for Environment and Ecology. President, prepared dishes is a relatively new term which has yet to have a standardized international definition. Interpretations of what constitutes prepared dishes can vary among different members of the trade and consumers. Generally, prepared dishes refer to finished or semi-finished foods upon processing and cooking, including dishes that only require reheating before consumption. From the perspective of food safety, all food items sold in Hong Kong, regardless of whether they are prepared dishes or not, are subject to stringent regulation, and they must comply with the requirements as set out in food safety legislation. Local food factories must obtain a food factory license from the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department under the Food Business Regulation. For foods not produced locally, the Food Safety Ordinance stipulates that food importers and distributors shall keep food records to ensure that the government can trace the source of food items quickly and effectively for appropriate follow-up actions. Certain high-risk imported foods are subject to specific legislation and must be accompanied by a health certificate issued by the competent authority of the place of origin and an import permission issued by the FEHD. Restaurants must comply with all relevant legislation and licensing requirements when serving food. In the event of food safety complaints or incidents, the FEHD will conduct investigations and institute prosecutions under the Public Health and Municipal Services Ordinance. In other words, different types of food, including prepared dishes, are regulated by existing food safety legislation at all stages from production and import to sale. To assist the trade in understanding the pertinent requirements, the FEHD published the Food Hygiene Code, which spells out the food hygiene and safety standards that food premises must follow based on statutory and licensing conditions. The code covers various aspects of production, handling, delivery, storage, and sale of different types of food, and offers recommendations and guidelines for meeting these standards. Regarding the questions raised by Mr. Wong, my reply is as follows. 1. From 2023 until August this year, the FEHD performed over 446,000 inspections at licensed or permitted food premises and instituted a total of 4,215 prosecutions involving various food safety irregularities. As food premises serving or not serving prepared dishes shall meet the same food safety and environmental hygiene conditions, the FEHD does not keep separate prosecution figures specifically related to prepared dishes. Besides, the Center for Food Safety, or CFS, collects food samples for testing at import, wholesale, and retail levels under a risk-based principle on an ongoing basis. During the same period, the CFS tested about 1,350 prepackaged food samples for chemical, microbiological, and radiation levels. Except for one sample with unsatisfactory result in the microbiological test, the results of all other samples were satisfactory. The satisfactory rate is comparable with the overall rate for CFS's food surveillance program. 2. The mainland authorities issued the Notice of Strengthening the Regulation of the Food Safety of Premade Dishes and Promoting the High-Quality Development of the Industry in March last year. The notice proposed the formulation of food safety standards for prepared dishes, along with various measures to strengthen the regulation of the food safety of prepared dishes and promote the high-quality development of the prepared dishes industry. In June this year, the CFS also released Prepared Dishes Food Safety Advice for Food Businesses and Consumers to assist the trade in taking appropriate measures for producing and supplying safe and hygienic prepared dishes. For instance, the food trade is reminded to cook and reheat prepared dishes thoroughly and make sure that the cold chain is well maintained during transportation and storage to prevent prepared dishes from being exposed to the temperature danger zone that's between 4 and 60 degrees Celsius. 3. The notice issued by the mainland authorities calls for stepping up promotion of the explicit labeling of prepared dishes in the catering sector, yet such a recommendation is an encouragement by nature. It's not mandatory with any binding effect. From the perspective of food safety, the safety of food served in restaurants does not depend on whether or not prepared ingredients are used. Imposing a mandatory labeling requirement on restaurants will not lead to further improvement in food safety. As for consumers who wish to know whether a restaurant serves prepared dishes before visiting, as mentioned, the understanding and expectations of individuals regarding what constitutes prepared dishes differ. For example, should any dish containing prepared ingredients be regarded as a prepared dish? In some cases where only certain ingredients are prepared while the rest are made freshly on-site, should the dish still be classified as a prepared dish? Is it reasonable and practical to require restaurants to list the prepared ingredients of each dish separately? These are all factors we have to take into account. In reality, given the wide variety of ingredients and cooking methods, it's challenging to establish a precise and clear definition of prepared dishes. If a mandatory labeling requirement for prepared dishes is imposed, not only would it present enforcement challenges, but also potentially give rise to disagreements between restaurants and consumers. President, with advancements in processing and packaging technologies, prepared foods and ingredients have continued to become better in various aspects of preservation, sterilization, quality, and taste. We support the food trade's endeavors to innovate and change to meet market demands and to keep optimizing the food supply chain. As said, the term prepared dishes is relatively recent, and the mainland is researching the establishment of national standards for the food safety of these dishes. There are media reports on an incoming plan by the National Health Commission to solicit public views on its draft legislation on national standards for the food safety of premade dishes. We will closely monitor the development of prepared dishes both on the mainland and locally, and implement suitable measures to safeguard public health and promote the high-quality development of the trade. Thank you. Mr. Edmund Wong. Recently, there is a dispute in the mainland involving premade dishes. I'm not going to talk about the details here, but it has to do with consumer rights. There are people, especially young parents, who are concerned about food safety and health. They want to give the best food to their children. I'm not saying that premade dishes aren't healthy, but a lot of chained restaurants, they use premade dishes, and we are at a very rapid stage at the development of prepared dishes. It's hard to have high quality prepared dishes which can make huge profit because they may contain a lot of preservatives. So I want to know if the food I get from restaurants are premade dishes. But as mentioned, there isn't a standardized international definition for prepared dishes. And this is exactly why I want to know if the government will come up with a clear definition for prepared dishes, and will there be regulation of such dishes so that members of the public can have peace of mind when they have prepared dishes. Secretary, I thank Mr. Wong for the questions. Just now, he mentioned that recently there have been controversies centering on prepared dishes on the mainland. On what is considered as prepared dishes, I think there are different views among consumers, and there are different expectations as well. So we have to look at the overall development of the trade to see what we should do for the next step. As mentioned in the major reply, in terms of food businesses development, we support the idea of developing prepared dishes. We see that prepared dishes and prepared ingredients in terms of preservation and sterilization, the relevant technologies have been improving. We believe that this trade will continue to grow in the future. Therefore, in this year's Chief Executive's policy address, it is announced that we will promote the development of food businesses in Hong Kong, and that includes the development of high-quality prepared dishes in Hong Kong. Last March, the mainland published a notice, and according to the notice, regulating prepared dishes is to ensure high-quality development of the trade. So we are consistent with the mainland in this regard. However, to formulate a set of standards and to ensure consumers' right to know, we notice that there are lots of details that need to be sorted out. We see that there is a gap to be filled here, and it is quite challenging to handle the gap. So we need time to monitor the development of the trade. All I can say is that in terms of formulating standards to promote food businesses in Hong Kong, we will continue to work hard. Mr. Tommy Jung. Thank you, President. I agree with what the Secretary said. I'm quite concerned if there is over-regulation in terms of licensing for food businesses and regulating food safety. There might be problems, so I agree with the Secretary that we have to continue to monitor the development of the trade to see what we should do in the next step. When the government collects samples from restaurants, you get the cooked dishes. For example, it's like you pay them to, for example, get shrimp dumplings before you examine the food. Will you talk to the relevant inspection officers from, for example, the Center for Food Safety on how you define premade dishes? I think you need to think about that. But I don't think you need to get so precise into whether the food should be cooked with flame or without flame, or whether the ingredients used are chilled or frozen ingredients when you come up with the definition. But I do think that when you collect the food samples, you may ask the restaurants whether the food is pre-made. You may want to look at the kitchen to see whether there are any risks behind. Secretary, I thank the member for the questions. Indeed, the FEHD officers, when inspecting restaurants, they do not just look at the food products, they look at the ingredients, the transportation of ingredients, the handling and the storage of food ingredients. We're concerned about all these to ensure food safety, so we do not just look at the finished food products. In the event of complaints or food safety incidents, our officers do not only look at the food samples in question, they also look at the food ingredients concerned. As mentioned, we look at the transportation, storage, or even the cooking of the food ingredients concerned. However, there will be many complications if we link up the inspection with premade dishes. For example, if preserved sausages are used in the dishes, should that dish be considered as a premade dish? Also, there are packaged vegetables used in dishes, and should these dishes be considered as premade dishes? If we pack the inspection with premade dishes, we'll have to absorb more experiences in order to come up with a way to deal with it. Our standards currently cover premade dishes. If we simply want to promote the food business industry, we have taken note of the relevant suggestions, and we will work on formulating a set of standards in the future. We will continue to ensure food safety and promote food businesses as we deal with premade dishes. Mr. Stephen Ho. We look at whether food is tasty, healthy, and safe to eat. Healthy food may not necessarily be tasty. Tasty food may not necessarily be healthy. We can regulate prepared dishes with the food business regulation. Also, we can impose stringent inspections on premade dishes. However, the relevant industry is still developing. If we come up with a set of standards now, it may intervene with the development or disrupt the development. Can we have the relevant standards formulated as we develop the northern metropolis? I do think, however, at this stage that the government can help plug the existing loopholes. According to your reply, you have about 440,000 inspections at licensed food premises every year. But as mentioned by the Secretary, you only look at the ingredients. You should go to the restaurant kitchen and collect samples from fresh ingredients. This is because there might be problems with the raw ingredients. So you have to look at the sourcing of food ingredients by restaurants. I wonder if the government can adjust the legislation so that you can collect raw ingredient samples from restaurant kitchen to ensure food safety. Secretary. I thank Mr. Ho for the questions as explained just now. FEHD officers, when inspecting restaurants and eateries, they do not just look at the finished food products. They go to restaurants' kitchen and look at the transportation, storage, and handling of food ingredients. They also look at the overall cooking environment, including the cooking process. So they do not just look at the finished food products. When we receive complaints, our officers do not just look at the food products concerned, they also look at the cooking process as well as the food ingredients involved. So under the existing mechanism, we cover all stages of food production. Which question was not addressed? The Secretary was talking about the cooking and processing. Anything to add, Secretary? I'm saying we're not just collecting samples from food products, but we also look at the imported food ingredients. We do sampling for all sorts of food ingredients. There is no omission. Mr. Scotland, we have to ensure quality of raw ingredients, that there are no additives or irregular additives. Then premade food could bring about advantages. However, some food delivery outlets are operated in industrial buildings, and we only get the telephone number from the leaflet. When things occur, there is no way for us to hold the parties accountable. In the past, we needed a lot of cooking for food, but now we could simply microwave some food products before we eat. Are there ways for the government to step up collecting intelligence to combat unlicensed food premises to help safeguard food safety for the public? Secretary, I thank the member for the questions. Just now, the question asked is not about whether there is prepared dish. It has to do with unlicensed food premises. In this regard, the FEHD will not be lenient. Even though the food is not served on the food premises, the relevant premises have to get a license to serve food or produce food. So the FEHD would definitely strengthen inspection, and we welcome any complaints from the public. From 2022 to August this year, breaches involving unlicensed food premises, as at 2022 we had 3,500, and in 2023 we had some 3,600. In 2024, some 3,300 complaints. So we see that the FEHD has made efforts in combating unlicensed food premises. We welcome any complaints from the public as well.
Question 4, Honorable Tang Ka-piu. Thank you, President. According to the Census and Statistics Department, the seasonally adjusted unemployment rate stood at 3.7% between June and August this year. The unemployment rates in the construction sector, food and beverage sector, and retail sector were 6.9%, 6.8%, and 5.1% respectively, which is of concern. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1. of the monthly number of new job vacancies received by the Labour Department over the past 24 months, and the sectoral distribution and employment arrangements for these vacancies, whether it has studied the wage trends for these positions, and whether it has identified any instances of mismatch between jobs and job seekers. 2. As the construction sector, food and beverage sector, and retail sector have become three of the sectors with the highest unemployment rates, what are the specific measures apart from job fairs does the government have to alleviate unemployment in these sectors? And 3. To further assist elderly and mid-aged unemployed people in entering the workforce, whether the government will expeditiously conduct an interim review of the re-employment allowance pilot scheme, increase resource allocation to the scheme, and extend its implementation period, while strengthening the role of trade unions in employment counseling and actively providing on-the-job and career transition training alongside startup support measures to enhance the effectiveness and coverage of the scheme. Secretary for Labour and Welfare. President, the government has been closely monitoring Hong Kong's employment market and its changes, and is committed to promoting training and retraining to enhance the quality and productivity of our workforce. In tandem, the government provides employment services to encourage and assist people to join the labour market. The government recognizes that the businesses of certain sectors will continue to weigh on employment. Nevertheless, the steady growth of Hong Kong's economy, the government's measures to boost economic growth and momentum, bolster consumption sentiment will support the overall labour demand. In consultation with the Development Bureau, the reply to the member's question is as follows. 1. The Labour Department LD provides diversified and free employment services to job seekers and actively liaises with employers to canvass job vacancies from different industries with a view to expediting the dissemination of information. Over the past 24 months, the vacancies received from private sector by LD each month with breakdowns by industry, job nature and salary range are at annex. By industry distribution, the financing, insurance, real estate and business services sector recorded the largest number of job vacancies, followed by the restaurants and hotels industry and the wholesale, retail and import-export trades. During the period, the proportion of job vacancies with a monthly salary of $15,000 or above relative to the total number of vacancies increased gradually from 61% to 66%. The current vast majority of job vacancies, about 99%, advertised through LD allow job seekers to apply directly to employers without the need to register with the Department for Job Matching Services. To enhance their chance to find employment, LD's job centers provide personalized employment advisory and job matching services. Our officers provide job seekers with the latest information on the job market, assist them in enrolling in retraining courses to acquire work skills and improve their employability. 2. The Employees Retraining Board, ERB, provides training and retraining services for the local workforce. Of these, placement-tied courses assisting people in between jobs and the unemployed in acquiring industry-specific vocational skills to enhance their employability. The ERB also provides tailor-made retraining support to industries with high unemployment rates to enhance competitiveness. Apart from job fairs, district thematic job fairs, the LDA has also established industry-based recruitment centers for the catering, retail, and construction industries. These centers advertise job vacancies of the respective industries and have interview rooms so that employers and job seekers can conduct on-the-spot interviews to save time. The LD has also set up dedicated websites for the catering, retail, and construction industries on its Interactive Employment Services IES website to help job seekers search for openings. The latest information of job fairs and training. Job seekers can also make use of the website or its mobile app to receive information on latest job vacancies and job fairs that match their preset criteria. As regards the construction industry, the annual average capital works expenditure will rise from $90 billion to $120 billion over the next 5 years. As the economy recovers and the private sector construction works rebound, the demand for manpower in the industry will remain strong in the coming years. With the support of the Development Bureau, the CIC Construction Industry Council has been actively coordinating with the industry to strengthen training for workers, including the part-time multi-skill short course launched last year, and provide subsidies to encourage workers to enhance job skills to improve employability. Besides, the CIC will strengthen employment matching services, including physical job fairs and online platform for job and training courses matching to help workers access information on vacancies and training opportunities. 3. The LD launched the Reemployment Allowance Pilot Scheme (RAA) scheme on the 15th of July last year to encourage those aged 40 and above who have not been engaged in paid work for 3 consecutive months or more to rejoin the market. The Labour Department has also commissioned service organizations to help the implementation of the scheme. Each eligible participant who has worked full-time for 12 months continuously may receive a maximum allowance of $20,000 during the period of the scheme. The REA scheme has been well received with over 50,000 participants and over 27,000 placements recorded as August this year. The LD appeals to employers who hire the participants of the scheme to join the employment program for elderly and middle-aged to elevate the skills of older and middle-aged persons. The two schemes are complementary and achieved synergy. The LD is collecting and collating data on the participants and placement of the REA scheme and is planning to conduct a midterm review in the first quarter of next year, along with the employment program for the elderly and the middle-aged, to evaluate the effectiveness of the REA scheme and map out the way forward, including exploring measures to promote silver employment. The government will continue to monitor changes in the economy and the job market and review and adjust measures in employment services in a timely manner. Mr. Bill Tang, thank you. I ask my colleagues to look at the annex to the question. It shows changes in the past 2 years. as you all know, that unemployment rate has risen. For the catering industry, it's risen from 4.1% to 6.8%. Well, in 2023 September, according to information in the annex, the overall vacancies received by the department has risen from 93,573 to August 2025. Has it actually dropped by 60% to 39,371. For catering, the number of vacancies has dropped from 11,000 to 6,000. That means there is an increasing unemployment rate with the number of job vacancies dropping. I thank the SAR government for responding to our demands in the policy address. But you have adopted the approach of advanced planning. Will you do so? Instead of waiting for further increase in unemployment rate to do something. Members have already proposed a measure, say for example, a trigger mechanism, suspension of importation of labor, etc. Will you consider further measures to actually protect local labor force so that they will have priorities? Secretary. Hong Kong is undergoing economic transformation. Some industries are doing very well, whereas others not so. Well, people have been quoting the food industry, the catering industry. That may be because of a change in consumption pattern or tastes or preferences in catering. The member mentioned about the supplementary importation of labor scheme. We accord priority to local labor. In relation to two posts, that is junior cook and servers, we have enhanced the measure. The recruitment period has been lengthened from 4 to 6 weeks, and the proportion of 2 to 1 is confined to the posts, not the entire company. We think these measures will greatly enhance the chance of local workers finding employment. Ms. Jovi Chen. We attach great importance to priority being given to local laborers. Well, there are a lot of people who are middle-aged, but they are not employed. Young graduates can't find jobs. According to information in the first quarter, in relation to university graduates, the number of jobs for them has dropped by 50%. In relation to customer service, it's dropped by about 20%. For other industries, well, that is the construction and F&B. We have education, IT, research and development, finance, and marketing. We have registered changes in the situation. We want to expand the coverage. Do you have any measures to help graduates to find jobs to address the issue of graduate unemployment? Secretary. We have registered positive economic growth by about 2 to 3% this year on different areas, including the tourism industry. There has been a rebound. We have also put in more resources in INT. We think that all these will boost support in the job market. Graduates will find positions. Whether it's on the macro level or on the Labor Department level, we have done a lot. Say, for example, strengthening our employment services. We aim to help youngsters and people in other age groups to find the job they want. Mr. Gary Chan. Thank you. I have a question for the Secretary. In formulating employment policies, how will they strengthen collaboration with chambers of commerce and trade associations in working out an employment information platform to enhance skills of job seekers. This is to address the risk of jobs mismatch. We want to enhance the employability of our labor force. Secretary, Mr. Chen has made very good suggestions. We see eye to eye in this regard. You can't rely on just one party. The LWB and the Labor Department make use of resources from different sectors, say for example different groups and different chambers of commerce. We work together to provide different avenues to reduce the risk of jobs mismatch. What we want to do is that job seekers and employers are properly matched to increase the efficiency of our employment market. Mr. Sunny Tang. There are many different reasons affecting unemployment rate. I understand that the government and recruitment agencies have been doing a lot of work to help job seekers find a job. However, we keep hearing that people spend a lot of time traveling to work. But there are job vacancies in the district where people live. My question is whether the government can do more, say for example the use of innovation and technology to encourage work and live in the same district. What about enhancing information flow to make that happen? Secretary. I thank the member for the question. In relation to employment services, we do use technology. The IES website is an example. It's very well received. It has multiple functions. You can choose to receive notification or preset criteria of information that you look for. As to whether we can make more use of technology, we do. We use terminals to provide information of different job vacancies. We do monitor the development in technology. If need be, if suitable, we use more technology to enhance our services. Mr. Chang Siu-chung. In recent years, the employment rate for middle-aged and elderly people is dropping. Well, for unemployment rate that is increasing for the age group between 55 and 59 is worse. From November last year to January, it was 3%. The unemployment rate has been climbing month by month to 4.6%. It's only just lower than youngsters. People have been saying that with the expansion of importation of labor, many employers prefer to hire young and strong imported labor. They find ways to try to push local workers away. Do you think that the rapid increase of unemployment rate is a result of expansion of importation of labor? If the unemployment rate continues to climb, in addition to the REA scheme, are there any other measures up the sleeve of the government? Secretary. As I said, our economy is undergoing economic transformation. The changes in the employment market is a result of changes in the supply and demand, as well as, AI is also affecting the employment market. We'll continue to monitor the situation. Mr. Chow mentioned about supplementary labor scheme. In relation to the enhanced supplementary labor scheme, there are about 32,000 people working in Hong Kong under the scheme. Compared to the total workforce of 3.4 million, it accounts for less than 1%. So the impact is minimal. Of course, we're aware that the impact on certain sectors, say for example, junior cook and servers in the food industry is affected more than the others. That's why the government has launched a targeted measure to ensure priority be given to local workers. What hasn't been answered? I asked about the age group of 55 to 59, the rapid increase of unemployment rate and its reason. It hasn't been answered. Secretary, do you have anything to add? Not really. Well, the employment market changes because of multiple factors. We see that the age of the unemployed has increased. But because of many reasons, what we can do is to enhance retraining as well as employment matching services. So whichever group you're in, we provide you with a suitable employment to help you find a job. Mr. Peter Shield. Thank you. People comment that the service quality of Hong Kong in recent years is rather poor, especially that to visitors. And that is because of a manpower shortage and an aging population. We heard that at the peak, there are about 110,000 jobs waiting to be filled. I think in recent years, there are about 40,000 vacancies waiting to be filled. Less than 4,000 job seekers approach the Labour Department to find a job. So there are a lot more jobs than job seekers, about 10 to 1. And 2/3 of the vacancies offer $15,000 a month, so at least $750 a day. I don't understand why that with so many vacancies available, only 1/10 of them are approached by job seekers. Secretary, as you know that it takes time to match job seekers with vacancies. Employers and job seekers have their own requirements. You won't be able to find 100% jobs being matched anywhere in the world. What we can do is to improve efficiency, whether it is physical assistance or online assistance. We'll continue to enhance our work to make it more efficient and effective. Dr. Teck Chi Yuen. There is a group of people in the workforce that hasn't been fully utilized. They are people with disabilities, PWDs. Through education and training, they have the ability and the desire to work. But the unemployment rate for this group is higher than that of the able-bodied. Perhaps a lot of organizations have reservations and concerns when it comes to employing PWDs. What I want to ask the government is, are there measures to promote employment among PWDs? Do they have any plans to increase the quota to encourage organizations and companies to hire more PWDs? In relation to this work is under the purview of the Labour Department as well as the Social Welfare Department, both under my portfolio. There are dedicated measures and resources to help PWDs to find a job. At the same time, there are lots of employers who want to employ PWDs. They create jobs suitable for PWDs to help them shine. We'll continue to do our work in this regard. Where possible, the government hires PWDs to take up civil service posts. We'll continue with our efforts. Different disabilities require different assistance. Say, for example, those who are physically disabled, those without vision, those without the ability to hear, have different needs. We will put in place measures and resources to help them.
Kwok Wai-keung.
Question 5, Mr. Kwok Wai-keung. Thank you, President. There appears that the existing code-of practice in times of adverse weather and extreme conditions, or the code formulated by the Labour Department, lacks a legally binding effect and contains an ambiguous definition of designated staff, which is not conducive to safeguarding employee safety and interest. In this connection, would the government inform this Council, 1, of the number of requests for assistance and complaints received by the Labour Department over the past 3 years from employees who were dismissed, had their wages good attendance bonus, allowances, annual leave, statutory holidays, or rest days deducted owing to their inability to resume duty or inability to resume duty on time due to adverse weather or extreme conditions, or will ask for additional hours of work to compensate for the loss of working hours when they were unable to report for duty. 2. Whether it will provide a clear definition of designated staff under the Code, requiring employers to clearly inform these staff members of their work arrangements upon recruitment, conduct risk assessments on the working environment in times of adverse weather and extreme conditions, and provide meal and travel allowances to designated staff who are still required to report for duty. And 3. Whether it will legislate for work suspension arrangements in times of adverse weather and extreme conditions, stipulating that employees providing non-urgent services are not required to report for duty, requiring employers not to deduct the salary or leave entitlements of employees who are absent from or late for work under such circumstances. If so, of the legislative details and timetable, if not the reasons for that. Secretary for Labour and Welfare. President, the Labour Department has all along called on employers to formulate work arrangements and contingency measures on adverse weather together with employees in advance, having regard to factors such as the actual operational needs of their industries, the safety of the employees both at work and during commuting to and from the workplaces, etc. The Code of Practice in Times of Adverse Weather and Extreme Conditions, published by the Labour Department, has provided practical guidelines and reference examples for employers and employees on work arrangements when tropical cyclones, rainstorm warnings, and extreme conditions are in force, including reporting for duty, early release from work, resumption of work, and remote work. The Code reminds employers that they shall make reference to the following basic principles when formulating relevant work arrangements and contingency measures. The basic principles include fully consulting and considering employees' views, fulfilling applications and requirements under the labour legislation, giving prime consideration to the safety of employees, keeping the number of staff required to report for duty at workplaces to the minimum, as well as taking into account employees' practical difficulties and needs, so as to handle employees' attendance patterns in a considerate, sympathetic, and flexible manner. The consolidated reply to the member's question is as follows. With respect to arrangements for reporting for duty, employers shall specify employees who are required to report for duty at workplaces in times of adverse weather or extreme conditions, that is, designated staff, in accordance with the aforesaid principles. The Code has reminded employers that they shall make prime consideration in respect of safety, transportation, and meals, etc. for designated staff in advance. Owing to the diverse work nature and modes of operation of job categories across industries, and the differences in organizations' manpower and deployments, whether employees need to return to their workplaces or remain on standby and duty in other ways depends on the actual circumstances. Many emergency services and services closely related to the livelihood need to maintain operation and make flexible adjustments during adverse weather or extreme conditions. It is operationally impracticable to adopt a one-size-fits-all approach in specifying which job categories and types of designated staff should return to workplaces to report for duty. Different industries and job categories have interrelated or supply chain relationships that are closely linked. It is infeasible to determine whether a service is an emergency service solely based on the general nature of the industry or job category. For example, the operation of hospitals or residential care homes may be severely impacted if employees of organizations providing meals to them suspend work. In addition, the impact of adverse weather or extreme conditions on employees commuting between their workplaces and residence varies. Legislating for work suspension arrangements under adverse weather or extreme conditions would pose adverse impacts on maintaining the effective functioning of society and the early resumption of normalcy. It will undermine the flexibility in work arrangements for both employers and employees. It is hence inappropriate to take the legislative approach. If employees have to work in times of adverse weather or extreme conditions, pursuant to the Employees' Compensation Ordinance, employees are liable to pay compensation for injuries or deaths occurred when employees are traveling by a direct route from their residence to their workplaces, or from their workplaces back to their residence after work, within a period of 4 hours before or after the working hours on a day when the specified adverse weather or extreme conditions is in force. Besides, employers shall assess the potential risk in advance and implement measures, including the provision and maintenance of safe systems of work, to reduce the risk to the minimum. Contravention of the provisions is liable to a maximum fine of $10 million and imprisonment for 2 years. The Employment Ordinance also stipulates clear provisions to safeguard the rights of employees. Among them, employers are not allowed to use employees' annual leave, statutory holidays, or rest days under the ordinance to offset the time when employees are unable to work due to adverse weather or extreme conditions. An employer who, without reasonable excuse, fails to comply with relevant provisions of the ordinance is in breach of the law. If employees are unable to report for duty at workplaces or resume work on time due to adverse weather or environmental factors beyond their control, the employers should be considerate towards the employees and should not consequently deduct their wages. While the Labour Department currently does not keep figures on requests for assistance or complaints from employees arising from adverse weather or extreme conditions, if there are disputes between employers and employees, or if employees encounter unreasonable treatment or infringements of their legal rights arising from adverse weather or extreme conditions, they can seek help and lodge complaints with the Labour Department. The Labour Relations Division of the Labour Department will provide appropriate assistance, endeavouring to conciliate or conduct follow-up investigation. Mr. Kwok Wai-keung. Thank you, President. Compared with the fear of reporting to duty during adverse condition, the unfairness is even more troubling. Now, according to the code, workers do not have to report duty at work under extreme weather unless they are designated staff. However, according to the reply, it is not suitable to adopt a one-size-fits-all definition for designated staff. Yesterday and day before yesterday, when number 8 and 10 typhoon signals were hoisted, many shops, many businesses continued to operate. So for those workers who brave the storm to come to work, but are deprived of the additional allowances attributable to designated staff, how can the Labour Department prevent such unfairness from occurring? Secretary. President, I thank the member for his follow-up questions. The code sets out the major principle, that is, there should be sufficient communications between the employer and employee concerning the upcoming adverse weather or extreme conditions. We encounter tropical cyclones or even hurricane every year. There are also severe rainstorms, so there should be planning and communication in advance. As to who is specified as designated staff, it depends on the situation of each industry. We are a highly efficient society. Every industry has its specific needs. So the code would protect the basic rights and needs of employees while providing sufficient flexibility to allow the efficient operation of society. Mr. Kingsley Wong. President, while working in extreme weather conditions, we need to protect the welfare and safety of employees. Now, according to the code, designated staff should be entitled to transport allowances and extra allowances. The employer must pay an allowance higher than normal wage. Now, for civil servants who report to duty under extreme weather can earn 1.5 times higher than their ordinary wage. Now, will the government ensure that all workers in the private sector will also be entitled to such additional allowances and also transportation allowances? Secretary. President, I thank Mr. Kingsley Wong for his question. Employer and employees should formulate work arrangements in advance. That includes meals and transportation. That also includes additional allowances mentioned by Mr. Kingsley Wong. But the Labour Department does not keep specific figures on that. All along, we have been urging employers to fulfill their obligations. Now, under extreme weather conditions, I urge employers to make advanced meal and transportation arrangement in advance to take care of the safety of employees. Mr. Jimmy Ng. Thank you, President. Now, the work arrangements under extreme weather is an emergency arrangement. Now, this is not a complete suspension of work, so I'm more concerned about the so-called legislative approach. Now, as mentioned by the Secretary, besides exceptional industries, for example, disciplinary services and healthcare workers, they need to report to duty as normal. The spirit of the code is to protect the safety of employees. We want to protect workers who need to commute to work, whether on transport or on foot. Now, if we legislate for full suspension of work in extreme weather, that would affect various industries to various extents. For example, during regatta, I've received regular updates from the MTRC on the suspension services of MTR stations and also the operating hours of trains. If there is a full suspension of work, we will not be updated. Now, today we could start the council at 9 a.m. sharp because the Secretariat has been updating us on the work arrangements. Say when the typhoon is cancelled at a certain hour, we would resume meeting. So if we legislate for a full suspension of work during typhoon, it would be impossible for us to gather in the chamber today. And also, even under typhoons, our stock markets would operate as normal. So with our complicated economy, we need to reserve flexibility. And also, from a legal perspective, if typhoon arrives on rest days or statutory holidays, the employers need not compensate the workers. Now, on this premises, I would like to confirm with the government concerning part 3 of the question, whether the government would legislate for work suspension arrangements. What is the government's position? Secretary. President, I thank Mr. Jimmy Ng for his question. In my main reply, I clearly stated that the government does not agree that we need to legislate for work suspension arrangements in times of adverse weather and extreme conditions. As mentioned by Mr. Jimmy Ng, that would be bad for resumption of normalcy. For example, using the example I quoted, provision of meal, it doesn't seem to be an emergency service, but if the meal provider supplies meals to residential care homes for the elderly or hospitals, then the patients or the charge of the care homes would be out of meals. So the economy is intricately interrelated. We need to prepare for unforeseeable outcomes. Mr. Lam Chen Singh, Mr. Robert Lee, thank you, President. The financial services industry attach importance to employee safety. Under extreme weather, we would only arrange for essential staff to come to work. Now, for banks, limited service would be provided under the weather, under extreme weather conditions, but we will still cooperate with the government's arrangements to continue operating our stock markets. Now, yesterday, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange recorded a transaction at the tune of $300 billion. So in terms of formulating work arrangements under extreme weather conditions, with the government step up communication and collaboration with the Hong Kong Observatory. Now, the Observatory issued a pre-warning in advance 1 day prior. However, in the past, there were instances where such pre-warnings were issued when workers were commuting to work. So can the Observatory issue pre-warning at a more opportune time to prevent misunderstanding and chaos? Secretary. Thank you, President. Now, whenever there are tropical cyclones or adverse weather, the Hong Kong Observatory plays a very critical role. The Hong Kong Observatory is doing their best to issue the earliest warning. We have a very sophisticated notification system. Now, within the realm of technology, the Hong Kong Observatory would issue warning as early as the earliest opportunity as possible for society to prepare itself. Mr. Lam Chen Singh. Thank you, President. I agree with the Secretary that it is infeasible to formulate a one-size-fits-all arrangement for which jobs should be suspended during typhoon. Now, the code is sufficient, in my opinion. If workers cannot report to duty because of factors beyond their control, their wages shouldn't be deducted and they should be entitled to the 1.5 times higher allowance. Now, will the government conduct a survey on how many employers are actually following the code? If the finding is unsatisfactory, will the government consider legislating for parts of the code? Secretary. Thank you, President, and thank you, Mr. Lam. We don't have these figures at hand, but I thank Mr. Lam for his question. In the days ahead, we will gather more information on the matter so that we understand how many employers have such work arrangement in place with their employees. Depending on the situation, we will see whether we need to amend or enhance the code of practice. Dr. Chow Siu-chung. President, according to the Code of the Labor Department, if employees are unable to report to duty or report to duty in time under extreme weather, their good attendance records, or bonus or allowances should not be deducted. Now, but the employers are not liable to incompliances with the code. There are a lot of stories of workers having their good attendance bonus, allowances, or even rest days or annual leave deducted because they could not report for duty in typhoon. Now, I understand that legislation may not be practical, but will the government consider imposing administrative punishment on non-complying employers? For example, for substantiated cases, the employers should be prohibited from importing supplementary labor or rendered ineligible for subsidies or even have their names published online. Secretary. Thank you. Now, for various reasons, under extreme weather, if employees are unable to report to duty and have their wages deducted unreasonably by their employers, the best approach would be apply for mitigation services provided by the Labor Relations Division of the Labor Department. Now, I don't think that disputes arising from the code should spill over to other arrangements. We need to be fair to both parties. If there are disputes in a certain area, and then punishment is imposed on the employers on other matters, then where should we draw the line? Hong Kong is effective because everything is clearly outlined. In case of disputes, there is clear pathways to resolve the dispute. If we allow disputes arising from a certain area to spill over to other areas, resulting in more restrictions, that would hinder our economic development. It would cause concerns for employers and investors. So we need to be fair. On the other hand, we need to protect the legal welfare of employees. Mr. Michael Look. President, I would like to clarify the FTU's position on legislating for work suspension arrangements. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. The work suspension arrangements will not render society without policing, security guards, or emergency maintenance services. Now, I visited some chain stores yesterday. These are fast food chain restaurants or convenience stores. There were workers working under typhoon signal number 10. Now, sometimes when we talk about negotiation, the employers would be bullying the employees. In the end, it would be the employees who make the compromise. Now, about the code of practice, the code is not legally binding. Now, on the other hand, in the Guangdong province, according to the meteorological ordinance and also other ordinances, the government is empowered to order suspension of work, stock market, schools, and so on. Now, I'm not saying that the government should legislate for this right now, But would the government be willing to learn from the example of the Guangdong provincial government? Will the Secretary lead a delegation to learn from the Guangdong provincial government and understand how this works? Secretary. President, I thank Mr. Michael Look for his question. I think every place has its own mechanism to deal with extreme weather conditions to protect human life, as well as ensuring resumption of normalcy as soon as possible. Hong Kong has formulated a very effective system over the years. Now, under Typhoon Ragasa, society has resumed operation very efficiently. On the other hand, according to the code, employers and employees have made compromises to continue offering essential services to members of the public. We should treasure this effective mechanism. On the other hand, I understand that there are needs to update the code a situation calls for. We are willing to do that, but we will treasure the part of the system which is functioning well. Of course, we are willing to learn from other provinces. But we need to be mindful that we have our own unique situations.
Last question seeking an oral reply, Dr. Ben Chen. It is learned that since the commissioning of the lift and pedestrian walkway system between Castle Peak Road and Kong Yip Street, Kwai Chung, one of the lift towers, meaning the lift tower connecting Shackley First Estate and Castle Peak Road, have broken down quite often, as the closed-circuit television systems of these two lifts were without recording devices. It was impossible to determine whether the breakdowns involved human factors, and it was only until several months ago that recording systems were installed after repeated requests by residents. Regarding the management of lifts of pedestrian walkway systems, will the government inform this council, first, whether it has examined the specific causes of the frequent breakdowns of these two lifts, including whether they involved the quality issues of lift? Second, as it is learned that in the past, CCTV systems installed by the Highways Department in lifts of footbridges and subways were without recording devices, of the reasons for that. And third, as there are views that the government should install CCTV systems with recording devices in the lifts of all pedestrian walkway systems under its purview to prevent crimes, whether the government will gradually implement this proposal. If so, of the details and timetable, if not, of the measures in place to prevent crimes occurring in lift. Secretary for Transport and Logistics. President, after consultation with the Highways Department and the Electrical and Mechanical Services Department, my reply to various parts of the question from Dr. Ben Chen is as follows. To enhance the accessibility of hillside areas and facilitate public mobility, the government builds and installs a mix of pedestrian facilities such as footbridges, subways, lifts, and escalator links, etc., under the hillside escalator links and elevator systems project to strengthen the pedestrian connectivity between uphill and downhill areas. The question brings up the lift and pedestrian walkway system between Castle Peak Road and Kong Yip Street. This project was completed and commissioned in early 2024. During the initial stage of operation, two of the lifts experienced several malfunctions, which primarily involved issues with lift door operation. The lift malfunctions warranted suspension of service, causing inconvenience to the public, which was undesirable. Upon a thorough review by the HYD and the lift contractor, it was considered that most of the lift door malfunctions were caused by the accumulation of foreign objects. Subsequently, the Highways Department instructed the lift-off contractor to adopt a series of measures, including conducting detailed re-inspections and tests on the lift, replacing certain components, as well as enhancing the weekly routine inspection, repair, and maintenance works. In particular, stepping up the cleansing of the lift door tracks and sensors, etc. Over the past 6 months, there has been marked improvement in the performance of the lift operation. The HYD will continue to urge the contractor to perform thorough inspection and cleaning of the lift to prevent further malfunctions of lift doors due to buildup of foreign objects. To reduce the the inconvenience to the public caused by the suspension of lift service under the HYD's purview due to malfunctions, we believe that the use of innovative technology can help contractors spot problems early and rectify problems in time, thereby enhancing the reliability of lift services. On the two lifts at the system between Castle Peak Road and Kong Yip Street brought up by Dr. Chen, the HYD, in coordination with the EMSD, will introduce an intelligent, predictive maintenance system to collect remotely the lift operation data. This will identify faults and analyze the severity of potential issues for fault prediction and preventive maintenance. Ultimately, this will reduce the frequency of lift malfunctions and the time required for maintenance. The HYD and the EMSD will work together to consider applying this technology to other lifts with more frequent breakdowns, with a view to enhancing the overall quality of lift services at the public walkways in Hong Kong. On the second and third parts of the question, currently there are about 600 lifts installed in public pedestrian walkways under the purview of the HYD. All of them are fitted with emergency alarm and communication systems in line with the requirements of the Code of Practice on the Design and Construction of Lifts and Escalators, published by the EMSD to ensure the personal safety of the public. If people encounter an emergency inside a lift car, they can press the emergency alarm button to notify the lift contractor's emergency communication center right away, so that the staff can provide prompt and suitable assistance. In addition, all these lifts are fitted with closed-circuit television systems, feeding real-time footage from inside the lift cars onto the screens installed on the external walls in the lift waiting areas in accordance with the code. If people encounter an emergency inside the lift, rescue personnel and technicians can immediately assess the situation inside the lift cars through the display screens to provide assistance. Furthermore, the screens in the lift waiting areas also show the public the situation inside the lift cars in real time, thus enhancing the safety of users of the lift. This, to a certain extent, also helps prevent crimes occurring inside the lift. On retrofitting those 600 lifts with CCTV systems with recording features, to do that, the HYD will have to carry out replacement works, installing surveillance systems, connecting the wires and signaling systems. That involves upgrading works. That's to ensure compliance with the information technology security requirements. Such modification will entail extra costs and higher recurrent maintenance expenses in the long run. That's why, when the HYD considers installing CCTV systems with recording features in the lifts of all public footbridges, the department will have to consider the cost effectiveness. Now, based on the HYD's records of such incidents leading to lift breakdowns, the common causes, non-human factors such as build-up of foreign objects at lift doors, moisture affecting components, signal system issues, wear and tear of parts, these issues are hard to spot with CCTV systems. Therefore, the use of CCTV systems with recording features will do little to help us spot the causes of lift breakdowns. In fact, the lift contractors can generally find out the causes of lift malfunctions through on-site inspections without relying on CCTV footage. We do note Dr. Chen's suggestion. In my reply, I've also said that we will adopt technology. When we have a lift that breaks down often, we are happy to bring in a smart predictive maintenance system, and we're keen to do it so that we can enhance the service quality of lifts. Based on these factors, we have no immediate plans to install CCTV systems with recording features in all 600 lifts or so at the public walkways throughout Hong Kong. We will, however, make greater use of new technologies, in particular, This smart predictive maintenance system can leverage AI and data to help us with predictive maintenance work. This will produce greater results. Thank you, President. Dr. Ben Chen. President, AI can help us predict problems. I welcome such a plan from the government. I brought up these two lifts in particular because you can see greater problems from subtle cues. When you have frequent accumulation of foreign objects and frequent breakdowns of those lifts, then we wonder where those foreign objects come from. We heard about foreign objects, we don't know where those come from. We will need cameras. We're simply catching up with an AI-enabled system, but having some cameras is better than nothing. We want to prevent vandalism. Cameras can also serve security purposes. We have hundreds of lifts across the city. Yes, we have a screen outside, but the workers told us, you already have the entire system there. All that you need is cameras with recording features. It will involve a modest sum. The government said this would cost money, so yes, we have to save money. And then we have hundreds of lifts. The universal accessibility scheme is being implemented. The issue is there. People have told us about this. Lifts were vandalized. So for the lift yet to be installed, can we require the installation of cameras with recording features? When something goes wrong, you have the footage, you can find out what went wrong. And then once you replace the old lift, you can install the new cameras there. So for lifts yet to be installed, please install cameras with recording features. Secretary. I thank Dr. Chen for his suggestion. We will consider his views with care. Some lifts may break down frequently. We do not rule out measures to step up measures to help us detect the incidents and predictive features. I brought up predictive maintenance systems. Because we will keep an eye on the power supply and the lift door operation, that system will transfer the data to our backend system. That will help us tell in advance what may go wrong. And this can help us with preemptive maintenance. Now, on installing such systems in other lifts, whether we can include the recording feature. Such systems can help with maintenance and repairs, and also those cameras can also serve security purposes. Apart from the Highways Department, the Hong Kong Police Force also installs CCTV systems with surveillance features in spots, in criminal hotspots and crowded areas. I want to give an example. Now, in a Sheung Tech shopping mall, there's a footbridge, and also the footbridge near Yun Chao Estate. There will be CCTV systems with recording features. We will consider the performance of different lifts and the breakdowns. Where appropriate, we will step up the facilities to improve service quality. Professor James Lau. Thank you, President. Last May, I put in a written question on lifts. And then a year later, this oral question came along. As Dr. Ben Chen said, subtle cues point to bigger problems. I do not question the competence of the authorities. It's about raising the overall quality of lift. My question from last year had to do with this. In urban lift, the cleanliness of lift left much to be desired. We have glass windows inside the lift. We were supposed to be able to view the scenery outside the lift, but what we saw instead was what went wrong inside the lift shaft. There was litter in the shaft. So there was a management issue. Things did not look good. So the problem comes back to management. Can we have higher expectations and requirements for management? I know the contractors work on those aspects. Secretary, I thank Professor Lau for his concern. On maintenance and cleanliness, we have strengthened our relevant mechanism. On maintenance and repair, the HYD and the AMSD have maintenance and repair agreements with contractors. Every 2 weeks, we do inspections. Every month, there will be a major review. Now, for these two lifts and lifts that break down frequently, we will have even more frequent inspections. In fact, we do weekly inspections. The HYD also meets with the EMSD regularly to review the performance of the lift contractors. On lift cleanliness, we want to do better on this front as well. So we have fixed-term contract for cleaning the lift. Now for the lift tower and also the glass pane, there is cleaning every 3 months, but the inside wall and the lift doors, especially the control panel, we check those parts every day. Some lifts are used frequently. So cleaning alone cannot make the difference. So we introduce new technology such as nano auto cleaning technology and nano filters. Those technologies can help us prevent dust and dirt from entering the lift more effectively. So we will have cleaners, but the new technology can help us do better. And we have also stepped up the oversight of contractors. We require them to inspect the lift. They have to keep logs. They have to take pictures and show us. For underperforming contractors, we follow the contractual terms. We issue warning letters, default notices, and we can even deduct the payments to contractors. So we take forward the work on all these fronts. Ms. Jovi Chen. This is a district-level issue. This should have been resolved locally. Now, the policy address this year proposes an AI efficacy team. AI should be used not just to fix governance issues, but also to fix district issues to enhance people's sense of well-being. Mainland lift contractors also use AI-based monitoring, so they can spot misuse of lift. So in this image, you see someone taking their motorcycle into the lift. There's a warning. The lift will also stop its service until this unacceptable vehicle is removed. So can we have technology so that we don't just record what's going on inside the lift, but also have systems like what I've just showed you to prevent misuse and reduce breakdowns? Secretary. I thank Ms. Chen for her question and comment. Use of AI-based technologies can help us spot anomalies such as power failure or the interference of foreign objects. Some lifts are fitted with sensors. In Hong Kong, people may take their bikes into lifts. And people have to stay within the loading limit of each lift. If that limit is exceeded, the sensor or an AI-based system can let the back-end system know, and this works. So we brought in this smart predictive maintenance system. We will promote the use of this system. We can consider having a voice alert system so that we all cherish the lift, and that matters. Thank you. Mr. Hon Chiu. Lift management is top of mind for everyone. This is not just for existing lifts, but also for lifts to be installed, such as the Thailand Tunnel. We have been campaigning for a lift there for the seniors. I'm looking at the main reply. And there will be AI-based systems to tell us what's going on with the lift. That's good. But let's not rule out the use of cameras with recording features for some lifts so soon. There may be vandalism in lifts. Cameras can help. We need the cameras as a deterrent. Ruling out cameras with recording features may end up sending the wrong signal. Can we give thought to the possibility that when vandalism happens in a lift, can we put cameras with recording features there? Secretary. I thank Mr. Hon Chiu for his follow-up question and comment. As I said in my reply to Dr. Ben Chen, would you have CCTV systems in lifts? On the recording feature, the HYD can talk to the police force about this. They can find ways to make better use of their resources. They can take a targeted approach. This can involve crime prevention or security considerations. In lifts with frequent breakdowns, we can find ways to use our resources so that we can put in place those systems. We're not ruling out that possibility, but we have to get the priority right with the resources, and we have to take a targeted approach.